Chris Gelser here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, we're going to discuss one of our most highly anticipated films of the year. Quentin Tarantino returns with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Matt, the film has already stirred up a bunch of controversy and divided its viewers. Are these all signs that point to a masterpiece in the making? Then it's going to be the latest from possibly the most visceral director working today, S. Craig Zahler, and his latest film, Dragged Across Concrete. Will the brutality and engagement continue? We'll discuss the big releases on Blu-ray DVD, featuring the straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. And then finally, Matt and I are going to share with you our 5 favorite Quentin Tarantino characters. So are we happy? Oh, we happy. Let's hear a clip.
Just put them in the wardrobe, all right? What's it gonna hurt? Then if you need them, you got them, all right?
But then I gotta have a conversation with that wardrobe assistant, and man, she's a bitch. I just don't. Please.
Look, Randy, I'm asking you to help me out, man. If the answer's no, the answer's no. Not no with excuses.
Hey, man, this ain't a Andy McLaughlin picture, you know. And I can't afford to hire a bunch of guys that smoke cigarettes and sit around talking to each other all day on the chance that I might use them. I got a 4-man team here, Rick. If I need more than that, I got to get it approved. And, you know, I got to look after my dudes.
Hey, and if your dudes were a better match for me, I'd say, okay, you got me. But that's not the case, and you know it. He's a great match for me.
Yeah, no.
Hey, you could do anything you want to him. Throw him off a building, right? Light him on fire. Hit him with a Lincoln, right? Get creative. Do whatever you want. He's happy for the opportunity.
That is Leonardo DiCaprio as our star, Rick Dalton, talking to the stunt coordinator, played by Kurt Russell, Randy. Not stuntman Mike, which I think was some of the theories when he first showed up in the trailers.
Right.
He's trying to get his buddy, Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, into the film because he's a stunt guy who's had a problem getting some work, which we may or may not get into why as we discuss this film. Matt, this movie features, as we said, Leo as Rick Dalton. He is a fading TV/movie star trying to figure out what's going to happen next in his career. It's the late 60s. His best friend and his stunt double, Brad Pitt, Cliff Booth, who is even possibly in a more precarious position in his career, and they're navigating the possible twilights of their careers. All the while, 1969 Hollywood is happening around them, and there is the looming specter of the Sharon Tate murders. Matt, let me ask you, just basic question. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Masterpiece or misfire? You only get those 2 choices.
That's all I get? Then I'm going to say misfire. I will say this. This is the first Tarantino film that I watched, that I've ever seen, that I didn't have like an immediate visceral reaction to it while I was watching it. I felt like I was just kind of there. And it's just this kind of meandering thing, which has these kind of flashes of, I hesitate to say brilliance, but it has these flashes of things that are there that I want to see or that are really good. But as a whole, I don't really understand what he's trying to say or what the point of the film is. And maybe that's my own failing, but I don't know where he's trying to go with this.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. It's your own failing. So I've seen this twice now. Okay. I saw it on my birthday as a treat to myself this past Thursday, and I went and saw it again last night. Now, as I'm watching this the first time, I'm thinking to myself, this isn't working.
Right.
I don't know what it is. We're just kind of meandering through the first 2 hours or so, 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Of this film. It progresses at a very leisurely pace, and then the final 20 minutes of it hit you like a sledgehammer.
Right.
That's when how do you put it, Matt? Your expectations of Tarantino show up.
Subverted.
So, but the first 3/4, 2/3, whatever you want to call it, the first main part of the film, it's not Hateful Eight. It's not Django. It's not Pulp Fiction. It's not filled with snappy dialogue, people going back and forth, right? I mean, there are moments of that.
Yes.
But it's not a consistent run-through the entire running time of the film.
Mm-hmm.
what this is QT's kind of, it's a loving homage to the late 60s Hollywood. And I think how the whole country, and let alone Hollywood, was forever changed after the Sharon Tate murders.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm watching this, as I said, I was kind of like, what is happening here? But then everything kind of crystallized for me, and it all kind of made sense then once everything goes crazy, right? This is just pure wish fulfillment. This is all about basically illustrating the world at that time, how we've changed since then, and that there was an innocence lost there. You know, it ties in what with the 60s and the hippie culture in Vietnam, but also too how everything changed since Sharon Tate and her friends were murdered. And it's Tarantino's wish fulfillment, or kind of to give those people the punishment that he felt that they truly deserved. And it is, I guess, kind of I don't want to even say it's like a build up to that moment. It's more, we're just living and breathing in these characters' lives until then. And I was all in on this, man. The second I watched out the first time, and I'm like, man, that is something. And then I just couldn't stop thinking about it. This is the first time I've gone back to see a movie in the theaters since I can't remember. It's got to be a few years. And it was just the second time. Let me put it this way: the second time it flowed a lot faster. It went a lot quicker than it did the first time for me, and I did appreciate it even more. It is really, I think, just a fantastic film. Is it a masterpiece? I don't know, but if I had to choose one of the two, I'm leaning towards yes.
So I guess all kidding aside, I mean, I know Chris likes to, especially when he disagrees with me, say that I'm wrong on everything. But if you'll listen into a little bit of what he said there, I've only seen this once. And I think if he had only seen it once, he may be closer to my opinion, or at least that was the same feeling he had walking out on it. I mean, I saw this yesterday. You know, I haven't had a lot of time to sit with it. You know, I've certainly been thinking about it. And I guess I got the point where he's trying to create this kind of recreation of this love letter to old Hollywood, or to at least 60s Hollywood. I wouldn't say old Hollywood.
How great is that scene when we're going down the strip and all the neon signs are lighting up? I mean, there's so much great stuff. Sorry, continue.
Right. I guess, yes, I understand that there are great things to this, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, to someone who's not a film nerd, right, and who doesn't have a nostalgia for that era, does it work on its own? And I think aesthetically, yes, I think it does, but it doesn't have the kind of emotional reaction I think that some of his other work does in some of the scenes that he has. I think the most effective scenes for me that really kind of ramped up the tension is when Brad Pitt's character Cliff picks up the Manson family hitchhiker and goes back to Spawn Ranch, right, where they're all staying. And I think that is probably the most effective sequence in the film for me, as far as kind of, you know, some of those kind of high tension film scenes that he's known for. You know, that's the closest thing we get to, like, maybe to, like, you know, the beginning of Inglourious Basterds, which I think is one of the greatest scenes I've ever seen. But I think it's kind of like, it's weird to see Quentin Tarantino. It seems to be he's kind of, is he mellowing in his older age? Is he kind of doing a different thing now? I mean, is it an unfair expectation that we always expect him to have this hyper-violent, talky thing? Probably. I think it'd be fair to say, if you walked away with this and you watched this one time, that I think you could be forgiven to saying that it may not be his strongest work. And then if it requires repeat viewings and more time to kind of let it develop and marinate, then so be it. But as of right now, I would say it's a misfire overall.
That's too bad. I think too that Brad Pitt for me is a standout in this film.
Oh yeah,
for sure. I mean, Leo's good in it. Robbie's good in it. I mean, everybody actually is great, but Pitt really. And I think it's because it's not just Pitt's performance. It's also how Tarantino frames him for us, how he displays him to us. I think one of the key things for this film is that boat scene. Mm-hmm. So clearly that's Tarantino commenting, I think, on Natalie Wood, right? And the rumors that Robert Wagner killed her.
Right.
But what's so effective about that boat scene is that he leaves it ambiguous.
Right.
It all depends. And I think how you interpret that scene shifts, I think, almost maybe how this whole film plays out for you. I read a really good article about that particular scene. I think I want to post it in the show notes. I did tweet it out, so if you follow us on Twitter, you can find the link there. There's two really important things I think about this. I think the boat scene is integral to the film because how you interpret what happens next, as I said, shades Brad Pitt character throughout the entire film. Running about Bruce Lee's portrayal, which we can talk about in a little bit too.
Okay. I was unaware there was a controversy around that.
Yeah, but I think Pitt's arc, as I said, his whole arc is entirely up to how you interpret that particular scene on the boat. And I think that's fascinating. There's also some concern with Robbie being underserved in this film. I think somebody asked Quentin Tarantino at Cannes that she had like the fewest lines out of any of the main stars, and he I reject your hypothesis. And he's entirely right.
But I think she's really a solid presence. I never got the like I almost expected her to be like this figure that just kind of drifts in the background that we don't ever really know, but I don't think that's the case. And even Pitt and DiCaprio, they have the most lines, but it's still not a real talky film. You don't get those kind of Tarantino monologues that he's known for. They don't have a ton of lines even in and of themselves compared to what a normal Tarantino protagonist would.
Right. But I love the time that we spend with her as kind of her career and her whole life is building and developing all around us. And there's just this kind of sad heartache because you know what happens to her and how she's robbed of her potential career. Though her star, she was also one of those things where she was supposed to be one of the big up and coming stars. And it kind of never really looked like that was actually going to happen.
Right.
Kind of what happened to Bruce Lee here in the States, right? He didn't blow up until he went home.
Right.
So let's cut to that. So his daughter is very upset about how he was portrayed in this film. And she's saying that basically he was mocked by Tarantino. Now, listen, how she feels about this is entirely valid. It's her father. She's entitled to feel how she feels. I did not get that interpretation from this at all. At one point, I think she wrote an op-ed about it too. She says, well, I'm watching this movie, and I'm not sure if it was a daughter or maybe another writer, stating that, people are laughing at Bruce and laughing how he talked, and I'm like, no, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
I think more, it's an enjoyable, fun scene. From what I understand, I've done some reading about this because I thought this little minor controversy, if you even call it that, was fascinating to me. And from what I understand, you know probably better than I do, is that Bruce was slightly arrogant, right?
He was.
And he had a chip on his shoulder, and he was kind of an angry guy, wasn't he, was he in the States? And I think that Tarantino, does a good job of... His portrayal of him, for me, is more showing all the difficulty and the crap that Bruce Lee had to put up with trying to become a star here in the States, personified by Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt's character, calling him Kato the entire time, right?
Yeah.
And then Tarantino, I think, confirms his, how do I put it, affectionate viewing or portrayal of Lee by bringing him back 2 other times in the film as trainers, right, to Margot Robbie. And then, of course, I think, possibly my biggest problem with this film is Tarantino's inclusion of Emile Hirsch. I don't know why that guy is working right now. I think that was a tragic flaw and a bad choice on him to hire him, considering all the crap going on with that jackass. But still, I don't know. I don't have the same issues that other people are having with that. Do you have any thoughts? I guess you're not as in on that kind of blew up over the last day or so. Yeah,
no, I hadn't heard anything about that. Honestly, I was a big fan of Bruce Lee and still am. I watched a lot of his stuff growing up. I watched a lot of his interviews. And I think, the kind of stuff that Tarantino has the character say is the kind of stuff he said in interviews and in these things that he did in like this film thing, even in just like the way he talked, that's how he sounded. It was actually a really good impression. and just the content is really close to what he said. It may be a little exaggerated, but I completely believed it was something that he would say. And just from what I knew about him, or at least that persona. Now, obviously, his daughter knew him in a way that we never will, but obviously his public persona, what he perceived that he showed out to everybody in the world, it seemed pretty close.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think that Tarantino does a good job, too, of not really featuring Polanski at all in this, and particularly Manson. He's barely in this thing, and he's not a focus of the film at all.
Yeah.
So, overall, Matt, I found this thing riveting, especially I liked it a lot, and that second viewing really solidified it for me. I think this thing is fantastic. It's probably the best film I've seen so far this year, so I'm giving it an A.
Okay. I'm going to give it a B. Now, and I will say this. I know I kind of was critical on the film, but the man hasn't really made a bad movie. It's all kind of in degrees, really, what you're talking about is his catalog. But I reserve the right to change that on a repeated viewing at some point throughout the year, because maybe it'll grow on me. I mean, I was very critical of Jackie Brown when it first came out because it wasn't what I expected, but it grew on me. So maybe that's what this will be. Maybe I need more time to sit with it. But right now, today, giving it a B. And also look little shout out to fans of Stranger Things. Maya Hawke, who is Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's daughter, has a little cameo at the end there, which is fun.
You would. That was one of the things that really made me angry. Not so much about the fact that she's in the film and she does a fine job. It's just that when you think about Hollywood and society, or even like people in elite areas of power and the country, government, whatever, it's all the same people. Right?
Yeah, it is.
It's all children of people who are rich or famous to begin with.
Yeah.
People who can afford to go to, to expensive schools and then go to acting school and not have to have a job. Like the Julian Casablancas and the Strokes. Dan Auerbach hates that guy because his dad would fit the bill while they were able to struggle, while Auerbach and I'm blanking on Carney are struggling to make it. I don't know. I mean, she's fine, and I'm halfway through Stranger Things this season, which is fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, it's way better than season 2.
Yeah, it's my favorite season so far. Granted, I'm only halfway through, but every time I see her, I'm just thinking of this just control and the
opportunities of who you know, what doors it opens for you. Although, and can I just point out, did it ever strike you with all the controversy that we found out about the issue with Uma Thurman and the driving scene and all that kind of stuff? Mm-hmm. How many shots that he has of people driving just in the way that she got hurt? Like there's scenes of Polanski and Tate driving in that convertible. Like there's so many of them, or even Booth and Dalton driving. It just was weird the way he kind of put that out there. Like, I don't know if it was intentional or what.
I don't think so. And I think part of the issue too is it's the fact that the road itself had that turn and it's a whole, I don't think it's that. Though I will say any criticisms that you may have had about Tarantino's love and just what would you call obsession, just overwhelming desire to show feet on the screen. This time out, I think at this point, this is just an FU to all those people.
I think it is, yeah. I mean, they're all over the place.
He's like, you think I've been...
He even calls it out, I think, in one section while there's some feet directly in your face. He's has a character talking about feet, so it's pretty funny.
Yeah, he's like, you think I've shown you some feet before? Just
you have no idea.
A couple of just stray observations I thought were interesting. I love the dog's food. Wolf's teeth, good food for mean dogs. The flavors I caught were rat, bird, and raccoon.
Yep.
And then supposedly, I don't know if you stayed for the credits, but Tim Roth was in this film, but he was cut entirely.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I'm kind of curious what that was, and if there'll be any extended cut released or something, or maybe some new edit of the film down the road.
Right.
All right. If you've had a chance to see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, just like the film, this is one of the longest discussions we've had in one particular movie. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Let's go ahead, Matt, and talk about what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday. We didn't discuss this for the show, but I think it may be of keen interest to you.
My class is full, Mr. Tolkien, full, with students who can translate Old English at least as quickly and skillfully as you, and have already had 2 terms to establish themselves. Good afternoon.
Hello. Professor? Since childhood, I have been fascinated with language. Obsessed with it. I've invented my own. Full, complete languages. Look, it's everything. From the breast hoard. My heart, the treasure of the breast.
And the drawings?
I made stories. Legends. After all, what is language for? It's not just the naming of things, is it? It's the lifeblood of a culture, a people.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's Nicholas Hoult. He stars along with Lily Collins, Matt, in Tolkien. Is it Tolkien? Tolkien?
I've always said Tolkien, but when you hear like Peter Jackson and the guys who are in the Lord of the Rings things, they always say Tolkien. So maybe it's Tolkien. I don't really know.
There you go. So this is coming out on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday. Was that film of any interest to you? Did you actually get to see it or no?
Yeah, I was gonna go see it, but I just never got around to it. My dad wanted to see it, so I was gonna go take him to see it, but we just it was in and out so fast that we didn't really get a chance to catch it. So that I'll catch that, and I'll catch his other Peter Jackson. Speaking of his film, that documentary that's coming out soon. So the shit is available, so we should check that out too.
Sounds good. Includes audio commentary by the director, Dom Karakowski, as well as some deleted scenes. Detective Pikachu is coming out. Oh, I don't have that drop anymore. If you get it from Best Buy, there's a steelbook. If you want the 3D version, you can only get it from Best Buy. Includes a detective mode. I don't know what that is. An alternate opening, some audio commentaries, and outside the actor's studio with Ryan Reynolds and some other stuff. The Conjuring Universe expansion film, The Case of La Llorona, is being released. Includes some deleted scenes. Man, that was such a loss. That thing could have been really interesting and launched a whole new arm of the Conjuring series by investigating different myths and horror characters from across the globe, and it's just not good. The Souvenir, a young film student in the early 80s become romantically involved with a complicated and untrustworthy man. Includes an audio commentary by the writer-director Johanna Haag. Tiger Milk is being released. It's a German film. It's supposed to be pretty good. Best friends Nina and Jamila are 14 years old, Matt. Summer has begun and Berlin is their playground. Sticky-lipped and heavy-eyed from drinking tiger milk, which is a mix of passion fruit, milk, and brandy. They flirt and use their innocent charm for fun. This summer, it's going to happen. Section True Love with Nico and Lucas. But when Jamila's family is threatened with deportation back to Iraq, the two girls realize their friendship is more important than ever. It's supposed to be one of those coming-of-age films, but set currently in Germany, where they're having that immigration issue where things are getting a little shaky in some sides.
Okay.
The latest DC animated film, Batman Hush, is being released. Includes a steelbook from Target. Best Buy has a Hush action figure. Includes some DC Vault cartoons, the Batman and Superman Hour, 2 from that. Audio commentary by the executive producer. And then a showcase of the next upcoming film as well. There's a Sergeant Rock animated short, but I guess the new one's going to feature Catwoman. I don't know. So you can check that out. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is releasing An Angel at My Table, the harrowing autobiography of Jeanette Frame, New Zealand's most distinguished author. The film describes her journey from an impoverished childhood marked by tragedy to a misdiagnosis of schizophrenia resulting in electroshock therapy and narrowly escaped lobotomy, to finally international literary fame. Includes a brand new high-definition digital transfer, audio commentary featuring the actors and director and producer, a short documentary from 2002, 6 deleted scenes, and more. Arrow is releasing the Brooke Shields horror film Alice, Sweet Alice. It's a brand new 2K restoration of the original theatrical version from the original camera negative. Some brand new audio commentaries as well as some archival ones, a deleted scene, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I remember watching bits of this when I was a kid getting babysat, and it scared the hell out of me, and I haven't seen it since. Your straight to DVD pick of the week, Attrition. Steven Seagal is back, Matt. When a Thai girl with mythical powers goes missing, Axe, who I'm assuming that's Seagal's character, and his old team unite in an attempt to bring her back. What should we be streaming this week?
So, in honor of our boy QT, I rustled up, tracked down what films are available on the various streaming services. So, I'm going to recommend them all. Not a whole lot available, unfortunately, but you can watch his first directorial film, Reservoir Dogs, about a bank heist gone wrong on Amazon Prime. The film that launched him into a household name, Pulp Fiction, is available on Netflix. And Inglourious Basterds and The Hateful Eight are also available on Netflix. In my opinion, my favorite of his films is not available, unfortunately, but it gives you a good little slice of his early and later films for you to check out.
There you go. And I think the sale is still on. They have that digital sale on iTunes. I broke down and bought it.
Did you?
And it also was on, what did you use?
I used Vudu. So Vudu Movies Anywhere. That's where I got it.
It includes, again, Pulp Fiction, both Kill Bills, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Death Proof, and From Dusk Till Dawn.
And From Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
So I didn't have those. I don't think I had any of those digitally. And a few of them I didn't have in HD. I just had them on DVD.
Oh, so, horrors of horrors.
I know, right? I bought Reservoir Dogs twice. I still have my Mr. Brown DVD because I believe that's the rarest of all of them when it came out.
Okay.
Was the QT cover.
That's right.
Slipcase, if you will. Awesome. Oh, man, I have one quick question before you move on.
Sure.
Did you hear that? I don't know if this is official, but I'm hearing rumblings that James Gunn is in talks to take over the DCEU and kind of run the whole thing.
That would be exciting. I'd be very curious to see what he's going to do, what he could do with it. How do you feel about that as the big DCEU guy of the two of us?
I would be excited about it if this comes to fruition. What he's able to do with those Guardians films, making basically an unknown property two of the most fun films in that entire grouping of movies.
Right.
I think he understands the source material, and he'd be able to inject some real stakes, but still have them be fun. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'd be a good choice. I think it'll work out.
Yeah, I would be on board to see that.
Good times.
Good times.
All right. Speaking of heart-crushing defeats and just getting beat up, let's spend a few minutes talking about Dragged Across Concrete.
You're losing perspective and compassion. There's a reason I'm sitting behind this desk running things, and you're out there with a partner that's 20 years younger than you.
Hey, Anthony's got a mouth with his own engine, but he's solid.
I'm thinking about the kind of future I can offer my girlfriend.
Pops is a yesterday who ain't worth words.
Good heavens, and praise be to him. Your absence was a weight upon us.
Thank you, Mr. Edmonton.
I don't like doing things with so many question marks everywhere.
There's a lot of imbeciles out there.
You know what kills me? Is just horrible people do really good work. That just drives me crazy. So, Matt, why don't you tell the fine folks on the road, at home, doing their laundry, wherever they may be, what is Dragged Across Concrete all about?
What's it all about? That's a tough one. You always give me the tough ones.
Yep.
So it's kind of like three stories that are kind of circling each other, and then kind of see how they come together. So first there's Brett Ridgman and Anthony Luracetti, two cops played by Mel Gibson and Vince Vaughn, who have been suspended for the force for police brutality, getting filmed doing enhanced interrogation techniques on a particular suspect, and how they're trying to get themselves back into good graces and get some money. And then there's Henry Johns and his buddy Biscuit. Henry just got out of the joint, and he decides he needs to make some quick cash, and Biscuit has a score that might be available to him to get on. And then there's Vogelman, the high-end professional criminal who's in town for a job that suddenly is on and is ready to go. And really, from there, it's a 2.5-hour movie about slowly getting to how those three disparate threads come together.
So I think I said in the opening of the show, Matt, that Zahler is, I think, our most nihilistic mainstream director working today. I mean, he really just likes to pick at that exposed nerve all the time. He's a guy who wants to punish you and wants you to face kind of the emotional impact of what you're, air quotes, enjoying. I think the introduction of Jennifer Carpenter's character in this film exists for that singular purpose, to remind you how much you might enjoy my brutal horror films, because I think all of these basically are horror films that he's done, that this is what you're watching, and I want you to realize it. So I don't know if his films can truly be enjoyed, but they are certainly experiences. And I will say that Dragged Across Concrete, even too, at times, is actually quite funny. But there are no good guys really in this film, right? Everybody here is dirty. And though the purest character is one of the criminals, traditionally how you would describe them, because he's trying to do what he's doing for basically the right reasons. Our anti-heroes here are also the villains. It's I don't know, man. I was watching this thing, and just every time his films is like a punch to the gut. And it also drives me crazy too, because he is a complete and utter a-hole. But this is vintage Mel Gibson. I mean, he's really good in this.
Yeah.
And it kills me to say that.
It's interesting to pair this film up with a Tarantino film because all of his films star generally horrible people that you should not be rooting for. Even the quote-unquote heroes that are even more pure heroes, like the bride. I mean, she's still a killer. I mean, and she's a bad person. It's interesting that you've got Zahler who's saying, here, you're watching this and you're enjoying this, but I want you to realize that these people are horrible people, and this is why you should really confront you with that. Whereas Quentin is saying, these are really exciting people and this is really exciting stuff, and let's just not think about really what this implies. They're kind of like in their own little worlds where it's more like bad stuff happening to bad people, so it's okay kind of thing.
Yep.
So, but this, I hesitate to call it enjoyable. I would say it's less less watchable than Bone Tomahawk, or maybe Brawl and Cell Block. What is it? 99? Cell Block 99? Is that what it is?
I believe so. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, but it is brutal. But I think it's also at the same time, it's a lot more straightforward. It's a very slow film. Like it takes its real meandering time to get where it's going. But I think ultimately it's kind of like, in a way, it's an homage to kind of like those straightforward 70s potboiler noir kind of crime films.
Yeah.
Taking them like the long way to get there. Instead of being tight, it kind of lets itself breathe, and it really kind of builds this thing really, really slowly until it just kind of blows up, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree entirely. I like, one of my notes is it's like a 10-car pileup of a movie where it's just at times just so brutal, but you kind of can't look away while you're watching it. I mean, I'm going to give this a B, but I don't know who you recommend this to.
Right.
It's one of the most hard-boiled kind of cop bad guys shoot 'em up films you'll see. But just like Cell Block, 99, it's it's a Brawl, I should say. It's just brutal at times, and just everybody is horrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, folks. It's just if you're in for some, at a time, snappy dialogue, couple laughs, some great performances, and some hyper violence, then you're gonna love this thing and hate it at the same time. But I'm giving it a B.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a B minus. I think I docked it a bit, a third of a letter grade, half a letter grade, to just because of how slow it is. I don't know if I'm losing patience for such things, but it seemed to stretch out maybe more than it needed to at times. But yeah, I agree with Chris. I don't know if it's something that you really will enjoy, but it is something that can be experienced. Honestly, if anybody that you run into, ladies and gentlemen out there, if they tell you that any of his films if any of Zahler's films are like one of their favorite movies and they love it, you run away. You just cut ties with that person, because that boy and or girl just ain't right, so.
He did write Puppet Master the Littlest Reich.
Oh, he did?
Which
Okay.
I've seen
I know that.
and enjoyed.
Okay.
But yeah, no, that's a little,
It's a little rough.
If you've had a chance to see Drag Across Concrete, oh boy. Okay, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Speaking of tough sits, none of these characters are tough to watch. We are now going to reveal our 5 favorite Quentin Tarantino characters. Matt, it killed me.
It did.
This guy did not make the list.
Mister. Hey, mister.
What?
You were in that fight. The fight on the radio. You're the fighter?
Who gave you that idea?
No, come on. You're him. I know you're him. Tell me your hero. You killed the other boxing man.
He's dead?
The radio said he was dead.
Sorry about that, Floyd.
What does it feel like?
What's what it feel like?
Killing a man.
That's Bruce Willis as the very prosperous Mr. Butch. Butch Coolidge, of course, from Pulp Fiction. I'm always trying to work in some Bruce Willis action whenever I can. Did you see my big photo I posted on my birthday, Matt, on our Instagram feed?
I did.
I found a copy of his album, The Return of Bruno, on vinyl.
I honestly
$5.
do not understand your love. That would have been $5 I'd have kept in my pocket. I don't understand what your love for that is. You have some odd taste, my friend.
I do.
I mean, there's just like this one thing that'll just leap out. I'm like, really? That's the one, huh?
I was very excited about it. I also picked up Star Trek: The Motion Picture on vinyl. That soundtrack, that score is just top shelf. And I got a bunch of other stuff. I had a fun little day on my birthday, running around and shopping and all. So good times. And I got Us on 4K for $13. Amazon had it on sale for $13 for like a day or so. So
wow,
I was able to grab that bad bear too. Lucky me.
Wow, look at you.
Matt, why don't you start us off? Who is your fifth favorite Quentin Tarantino character? Now, I will accept characters that he's written in films he has not directed.
Okay.
I don't have any, just to kind of do a little spoiler for you.
Yeah.
But I would accept it because they're characters he's written.
Okay, I didn't even include those. I'd probably put the geckos and maybe an honorable mention because they're a lot of fun. But yeah, I didn't have any of those on my list.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I did have some trouble with this because, again, kind of what I was saying before. All of these people, to a person, are bad people. They're all killers, and they're horrible, horrible people. And even some of them are the villains. But I digress. I'm going to go through this. Don't judge me. My number 5 is Leo DiCaprio as Calvin Candy. Just a smirking, insidious, just slimy Southern slave owner guy. And it's just, he is just a horrible human being, but just Leo DiCaprio just does such a good job portraying him that you just kind of watch him while he's on screen, and it's fantastic.
No, I think that's entirely right. I think
You have my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. Didn't quite make the cut for me, but it is a good one. Man, yeah. So my number 5 was actually originally going to be the clip I was going to use for this segment, but I just couldn't get away from him because I just love him so damn much. And that is Steve Buscemi as Mr. Pink. He's one of my all-time favorites. He's a ton of fun in Reservoir Dogs. His whole I don't tip speech.
Yeah.
And then he's also the smartest man in that film. He knows exactly what's going down and why. And he's the one guy who tries to stick with the rules to try and make it out alive. So, and I love Buscemi. And I think this is one of his best performances. Tarantino and Buscemi totally capture just Buscemi at his craziness, right? As craziest as everything. He's able to harness everything that makes him who he is. And it is just one of my all-time favorites in any QT film.
Yeah, he is. I just watched Reservoir Dogs the other day just because I bought that pack, online, and I've been working my way through them, and you forget how good Steve Buscemi is in that film because he is fantastic. He's by far the best one in that film. He's great.
Yeah, everybody goes with Mr. White because it's so memorable.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Well, and Mr. Blonde. Mr. Blonde. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Blonde. But still, I think Pink is great in that. All right, what do you got?
So my number 4 is the condemned in The Hateful Eight, Daisy Domergue, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think she does a fantastic performance in this film. There's a lot of strong characters in this. I mean, Sam Jackson's great. I have a huge affinity for Walter Goggins, so I love Mannix just because I love Walter Goggins or Walton Goggins. But I think the like kind of pathos and kind of like somehow relatability of what Jennifer Jason Leigh can somehow bring to that, I think kind of elevates her role. And I think she's fascinating to watch.
That's an interesting pick. Didn't make my list, but That's interesting. My number 4 is not a cheat.
Okay.
Because what he's able to develop by adapting the source material and then the performance by Pam Grier really, I think, brings this to life, and that's Jackie Brown. I know it's based off of the Elmore Leonard novel, but I feel that QT brings enough to it that it becomes one of his characters. And Pam Grier is so good in that film. And one of the interesting things about it, too, it's one of the only films where his main character is an underdog, right? So what she has to go through to survive and get through that thing is just, man, I don't know. Whenever I think of Tarantino films, Pam Grier always just pops into my head kind of immediately as one of the better performances in any of his movies. And she's just effortlessly cool. And as I said, she's one of the few underdogs he really had. So Jackie's my number 4.
Okay. That's a good pick. Very good pick. All right, so my number 3 is the man, the bad MFer himself, Jules Winfield, played by Samuel L. Jackson, in which I would argue is his best role, his most iconic role, as one half of the barely competent hitman muscle duo of Pulp Fiction. Vincent Vega got a lot of the attention when that first came out because it was kind of revitalizing Travolta's career, but man, out of the two of them, Jules all day long.
I agree. In fact, I agree so much that he's my number 3 as well.
Okay.
As I'm looking at this list, I'm confident we have the same.
I'm 100% sure we have the same number 1 for sure.
But I don't know. We may be off in our. We may be swapped, but I know our 1s and 2s are the same.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
All right.
I think so. So, but yeah, I agree with you. Sam Jackson and Winfield. He is, for me, he is the driving heart of that film, of Pulp Fiction. He's the engine that makes that thing go. He is the most fun. He is the most entertaining. He's the one that I think snaps you to attention every time he's on the screen. The thing jumped back forth in time, all these interweaving plots, but when Sam Jackson's on the screen, man, he is the guy. So I agree with you. Jules Winfield is my number 3.
Okay. All right, so my number 2 is my favorite protagonist in any Quentin Tarantino film. It's Uma Thurman as the bride. I have a real affection for Kill Bill, probably more than most of my esteemed podcast nobodies do, just looking at everybody's lists. But I love Kill Bill. I love it so much, and I just love Uma Thurman just throughout that whole thing. She's just such a badass, and I cannot get enough watching it.
So there you go. I think that I was exactly right. So you have spoiled one of mine, and I'll now spoil yours. My number 2 is Hans Landa. You have possibly the best opening 20 minutes or whatever it is of any Quentin Tarantino film. His interrogation on that French farm is one of the most stressful scenes you will ever watch. And it is he portrays that so beautifully. With this calm, basically, I'm here to help you. You know, just talk to me and we'll work something out. But the sinisterness is still there the entire time. He exudes this menace and fear in this package of this genteel guy who pulls out the Sherlock Holmes pipe. And I think inevitably why our numbers are swapped is because he doesn't have the screen time that my number 1 does.
Okay, that's fair.
Still, number 2 for me is Hans Landa.
Okay. Well, number 1 for me is Hans Landa. When I saw Inglourious Basterds, he was just a revelation. He was an unknown actor to me. I had never seen anything he had ever in, and he was just this guy. Christoph Waltz just absolutely embodies this character, and he kind of instills this kind of jovial, like if you just met him on the street, he'd be the kindly German guy that you'd like to sit down and go to the beer garden with. He would be absolutely friendly, and then man, when he flicks on that switch, he is just absolutely chilling. He is just a scary dude, and just everything about it is, I just absolutely love Hans Landa. It was just tough for me to say, just because bookended by him and Calvin Candy, who they are, those are just crazy characters. But I would watch Christoph Waltz play Hans Landa all day long.
Yep, there you go. So Matt, then who's my number 1?
It's the bride.
Indeed it is. Uma Thurman as the bride from Kill Bill. Clearly only one film, according to Quentin Tarantino. So, but yeah, I think one of the most interesting and riveting performances portrayed in any Tarantino film. The roller coaster ride that woman goes through in that film, as well as delivering some of the greatest stunts in any of his movies. Now, granted, I know that Zoe Bell is doing those stunts, though some of them clearly Uma did, right? But still, it is my favorite performance in any of the films. She's able to bring that feeling of loss and conquering all the horror that she had to deal with while she gets her revenge, and yet also be sensitive when her child shows up. I cannot, man. I watched Kill Bill Volume 1. I remember I was at the theater, and when that ends and he asks if she knows her child is still alive, I had to pick up my jaw off the floor, So but yeah, no, Uma's my number one. So there you go.
There you go.
Honorable mentions, just all of them. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much. You could kind of just pick and choose if you want. Samuel L. as Steven in Django Unchained, he disappears into that role, and he's just a scary dude. Just the way he interacts with that. Vincent Vega, obviously, iconic. King Schultz, Christoph Waltz, Django Unchained. I actually have a real affection for Death Proof. I think a lot of people consider it his weakest film, but I probably put it in the middle of the pack just because I love it so much. So I've got Stuntman Mike in there as well.
Yep.
Aldo Raines, Brad Pitt's performance in Inglourious Basterds, and Mr. Pink. And I would also throw Abernathy in there, but that's just because I'm a crush on Rosario Dawson, and I like watching her.
That's a fair point. Oh, that's right. I forgot about Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Winstead, yeah.
I had Winston the Wolf. I had all the people you named, but also Winston, Mr. White. We talked about Django Freeman, Mia Wallace, Major Marquess, like you said earlier, Captain Coons, Christopher Walken in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And I do have Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton, but I would go Booth before Dalton, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely put Cliff. Yeah.
And Archie Hickok from Inglourious Basterds, too.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender is a lot of fun in that thing. Who are your 5 favorite Quentin Tarantino characters? I can't wait to find out. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, coming up next week on the big show, it's an all names double feature. We're going to do Hobbs and Shaw. Oh, dear God. And we're going to do Holmes and Watson, which could be even worse, potentially, from what I understand. Watch, though, it's going to be like, though I haven't seen it, I think, since it came out, I would think I'm one of 5 people who enjoyed Cop Out, the Bruce Willis, Tracy Morgan movie.
Right.
So
right.
I wonder if that'll be the same here. We'll find out.
I just like to point out, Step Brothers got like a 27 or a 28% Rotten Tomatoes score, and that is a classic.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's really low. Maybe not the 20s, but it's definitely in the 30s. Like,
yeah,
it was definitely a rotten rating.
Now. I hope you're ready. Let's find out. I'm on a boat. 55.
Really? I thought it was way lower than that. Okay.
Maybe it's gone up over time. I started having Mrs. First Run watch Walk Hard because I hadn't seen it in so long, and I love that film.
Such a good movie.
We got about halfway through.
You don't want none of that. You don't want none of this.
Is it habit forming?
No, you cannot get addicted. It makes everything better. You don't want none of this.
It's such a good film. So that, I think, is an underrated comedy. I think everybody slept on, and I don't think a lot of people have seen it. And I'm just going to look that up. I'm curious. What did Walk Hard get for a Rotten Tomatoes score? 74%. Certified fresh. I'll tag it. Only 2 kind of people know karate.
Pay for drugs. Just over and over again. And you never paid for any of the drugs.
Not once. All right. Check us out at thefirstrun.com, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Do a search. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. That's how other people will find the show. I'd appreciate it. Give us a review. I will read it on air. And that's going to be it, Matt. Why don't we go ahead and take an extended break, and we will see you soon.
Hands are registered as lethal weapons. We get into a fight, I accidentally kill you. I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.